I've said it before, right? I'm not willing to sacrifice the rest of my life or the rest of the components of my life for the sake of business, right? There are plenty of big name entrepreneurs whom we have seen, live, breathe, eat, sleep, nothing but business all day, every day, and thereby I feel, and we often see that the rest of their life kind of suffers, whether it's health and wellness or family or those kinds of things, right? I want to have success in everything that I do versus just one or two things, right? In this video, we're going to talk a little bit more outside of business, right? We often talk about more business-focused topics. I think I think it's hugely important, right, that we focus on all things in our life because good in any and all of these areas actually feeds more good into the other areas, such as our business. So, the more good energy you put into your life as a whole and your vision, I think it will suit you in business as well. I'm Stephen Taylor. This is WeeklyST. For the last 10 years, I've been building a couple $1 million cybersecurity IT support company here in Chicagoland, and I'm fascinated with living a wholly successful life. We talk about this every single week and more. Please like, share, and subscribe. I talk a lot about us or myself as the business owner, the entrepreneur, and how important, things inside and around that, help influence the business, right? There is so much life outside of business, right? And I think to live a wholly successful life, where it includes many different tenets, maybe it's a rock solid relationship, maybe it's having great social circle, sense of community, health and wellness, financial stability, right? All of these different things affect us, thereby they affect the business. And I think that, given that there's, 6 or 8 more subjects outside of career and business, that these things might actually be more important than the business itself. Our society, most people, I think they look at success and the definition is, typically money or career based, right? I would say that success to me is happiness, right? And I think each person really needs to define what success looks like for themselves. But if we, go down this happiness path, right, being happy is going to help you grow your business, right? It's going to help you show up better in, again, all of these different tenets of life. And isn't that winning or being successful? I think so. And there's a ton of books, talks, and guidance on everything, right? Being productive, goal setting, all this stuff, right? All this business stuff. But not a lot of us are talking about, more of the self-awareness side or the emotional side or, how to be successful in your relationship, how to be successful in your community, how to be successful in, some of these other areas of life. And again, I just think that if we placed more importance on these things, we'd show up better in everything that we do. And wouldn't that lead us to a fulfilled, successful life later on when we really feel whole about all the things in life? I don't think anybody dies on their deathbed wishing that they would have worked harder or done more in their business or their career. They probably regret the decisions that they didn't make or the things that they didn't take action on in the other areas of their life. I think in business, we talk about, what's your vision and where you're going to go and setting your 12-week goals and all that kind of stuff. What if, right, we looked at our life as a whole, right, and define some areas of our life that we want to push forward. Again, maybe it's relationships, maybe it's social, maybe it's community, maybe it's giving back, financial stability, any of these things you pick, right? And the wheel of life, so to speak. And there's, templates all over the internet and really designing a vision for each of those areas, and expounding. And maybe you set that for, what your 10-year future looks like. Maybe you set that for your 5-year or your 1 year. And then it's about doing the things every single day. It's funny, all the great business advice applies to your life as well, and to your relationship, and to, any of these other things that you want to build in your life. Set yourself some goals and work every single day towards that, again, outside of business, the business in and of itself. I think too often we compare ourselves to everyone else, right? The social media and the world, we have access to knowing the life and history and accomplishments of every single person on the planet for the sake of it, right? And it leads us into comparison, right? And so we look at, well, I'm not as good as they are. And so just doing my best versus being the best at what it might be, right? Am I a better person than I was yesterday versus am I the greatest on the planet, right? The latter will give you anxiety and upsettedness versus really looking at how am I showing up, how am I doing, and comparing yourself to your yesterday will give you a sense of accomplishment because you probably did grow. You probably have done better, right? So not being the best, but just doing my best. There's that chase of happiness, right? And studies have been done from like financial, right? Financial is one of the easier ones to go after. We always are looking for more. Turns out that, most people, when asked about their salary or, how much money they make, things like that, they often will say, well, if I could double or triple what I'm doing, then I would be happy. Then I would be content, right? We all know about the happiness side at, $75,000 a year. You don't get much more bang for your buck, pun intended, after you make any more money than that, right? And a vast majority of even six-figure earners still live paycheck to paycheck, which is crazy, right? And the 2 to 3 times amount, actually, the data still supports it even for big-time earners, right? So even if you're a six-figure earner or millions of dollars a year, those same people say, if I had 2 to 3 times more, if I made 2 to 3 times more, then I would be happy, right? And I feel like I believe this is true of all these different things in our life. We're always looking for what's next. We're always, hoping or pining, right? And instead, what if we just learn, what if COVID taught us to slow down and just be, right? Choose to be happy, slow down this pace of life and really just, enjoy it as it goes, right? There's always going to be problems. There's always going to be issues. But if we didn't have that sadness, if we didn't have those things that really upset us, we probably wouldn't be able to understand happy and excited and those feelings too, right? Sometimes it's this, roller coaster ride of the good and the bad, and just understanding and believing that there's going to be those sad and bad times, and that's okay. It's a part of the journey and a part of the ride, right? I think there's some importance to be put in that. And I hope one of the biggest things that we've all taken away from, the recent events, if you will, is to just slow down, choose happiness, be a good human.